united in diversity. We are very heterogeneous in our opinion.
If we do not renew our partnerships with the rest of the world, Europe will not be relevant.
We can make it if we are together as Europeans.
Do you genuinely believe that countries will manage to reach these very ambitious targets?
Good afternoon and welcome back to the first day of Politico Competitive Europe Week. I'm Douglas Busvine, I'm Politico's trade editor. Well, Ursula von der Leyen has told us that Europe needs a new economic foreign policy for today's realities, and her Commission will prioritise advancing Europe's economic security and economic statecraft. That's what she said in spelling out her second-term agenda. So where does that leave trade? It is, after all, one of the major prerogatives delegated to the Commission by the EU's 27 member states. But let's be honest, it's slipped down the agenda, which, as the overarching title of this event makes clear, it's dominated by competitiveness. And as Mario Draghi has told us, and you no doubt heard again this morning, Europe needs to restore its competitiveness or face a slow agony of decline. So the zeitgeist is morphing into zero-sum thinking and away from win-win situations. We wrote at the end of last year that von der Leyen's geopolitical commission had failed to deliver the free trade accords that still offer a path to prosperity, even in an increasingly hostile world. So what about VDL's second term? Is trade over? Well, not quite. We'll find out soon enough whether her networking and all that Twitter diplomacy on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York last week will help the Mercosur Accord finally reach the finishing line. You've only got to hold your breath for another 6 weeks until the G20 summit in Rio. So, for today at least, we don't plan to rebrand our morning trade newsletter. We're quite attached to it. But looking at our agenda for tomorrow, we might reconsider. One option we were thinking of is morning economic security. But trade it is still for today, and we have a great afternoon of debate and discussion ahead of us. So now the housekeeping. Before we kick off, I'd like to thank our partners for making the summit possible. Our leading partners ACEA, Booking.com, FPIA and Google. Our presenting partners ExxonMobil, Microsoft, Santander and Vodafone. Our knowledge partner McKinsey Global Institute, and visibility partners the German Council on Foreign Relations and the German Marshall Fund. So we love a good debate. Let's keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts with us on X or any social media you prefer using our rather long, admittedly, hashtag Politico Competitive Week. We can't wait to hear what you have to say. Now, some sessions will include Q&A from our audience here in the room. Those sessions are indicated in the programme, and our moderators will let you know when there are Q&As. And as a general rule, we would ask you to raise snappy questions, avoid statements, and indicate who you are and which organisation you represent. During our networking breaks, come and meet our pro teams and enjoy some delicious macarons, if I got the pronunciation right there. I live in Berlin. Together in the networking space, and while you're there, explore the rest of our exciting partners' installations and connect with fellow attendees. Up next, we will hear from remarks from Luca De Meo, the CEO of Renault Group and president of ACEA. This will be followed by a policy spotlight discussion led by our very own trade reporter, Koen Verhelst, focusing on the EU's efforts to set global standards in its trade relations. Thank you and welcome. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Works? Good, good. So I'm very happy to be here today. especially because we're in front of so vital challenges that Europe is facing. But I'm happy because there are signs that the conversation is starting to head into the right direction at last, I would say. Of course, I'm referring also to the Draghi report. I think it's putting competitivity issue high on the agenda, while for too long this has been kind of an elephant in the room in Europe. So in the automotive industry, we are, I think, pretty well placed to see this issue, and actually the stakes go beyond, far beyond us, because when we talk about automotive, just as a reminder, we talk about the pillar of our economic and social system in Europe. 8% of the GDP, 13 million jobs, 1/3 of the R&D, 400 million impact, in taxes, 100 million positive in trade balance. I could continue for a while. So over the 20 last years, this European engine has been losing ground, unfortunately, to its global competitor. And the shift has accelerated in the recent years. So the center of gravity of the automotive system has moved towards China, which now accounts for 30% of the global market, even 60% when it comes to electric vehicles. So the automotive sector, I think, is symptomatic of competitivity problems that affect all the sectors. And it's clear that we need a strong European reaction. There are, of course, in Mr. Draghi's report, many answers to the challenges that we're facing. The lack of money that we put in the system, because investment too often go out of Europe, even European money. The cost of energy also, that can be up to 3 times higher in Europe than in the US or China. The cost of labor, the cost of innovation, or the cost of failure. Actually, it's 10 times higher than in the US. I'm not going to tackle all these issues, but I think that we in Europe have been creating a part of the problem, and I think at this stage we can't ignore that. By 2030, car makers have to comply with over 130 regulations, spanning safety, emissions, energy, materials, data, and security requirements. When 25% of all the money in R&D by this industry is devoted to compliance, then it means that there is a bug somewhere in how we deal with regulation. What's happening, in fact, is that we are diverting a huge amount of money at the moment when we should be dramatically stepping up our game, investing in innovation, electrification technologies, and manufacturing. That's why I see that the fact that the Commission now explicitly states the need to simplify the regulation and to eliminate overlaps and contradiction as a very, 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 very positive step. And at ACEA, we are coming up with a proposition to adopt a new approach that would base regulation on 3 principles. One is we should group all the regulation affecting the sector into batches. Second, we should not regulate the past, rather apply the new regulation only to new types and not retroactively. And third, do a consistency check before any legislative proposal, for example, through a one-stop shop within the Commission to conduct impact assessments, putting all the stakeholders around the table to make sure there's no loophole. The good news is that we potentially have a big lever of competitivity here. Just if we manage to streamline how we regulate, creating more manageable implementation timelines synchronized with the industrial production cycle, I think this can be a game changer, and it's actually in the hands of the Commission. The problem we are facing is even clearer when you look at the problem the automotive industry is experiencing to meet 2025 targets set by the CAFE regulation. I think no one can seriously doubt that this industry is committed to EV transition. We are investing 250 billion euros. This is 1.3 times the yearly budget of EU. We are launching 86 EV vehicles in 24 months. In other words, we have been given an objective and we've put ourselves in the condition to deliver what we had to do. The paradox is that we are the ones which could face more than 50 billion of fines next year because the market won't be ready to absorb the zero-emission cars that we've been asked to make and that we've made. Because the enabling conditions are not there, especially the charging infrastructure and the purchase incentive that you always need when you want to push a technology that is not mature yet. Those who've set the rules have just not set the market conditions. So it's clear that we need urgent measures to face the situation that would only divert more money from necessary investment in Europe competitivity, putting also a lot of jobs at risk, while even in fact subsidizing our Chinese and American competitors if we have to buy them compliance credits. But it's also clear that we need more than that, a much more strategic approach to regulation in Europe. And this means, for me, adopting a holistic approach on the entire value chain, from raw materials sourcing to the charging infrastructure to the recycling, instead of piling up regulation one on top of the other. And this also means playing as a team, and playing a team sport between the various sectors and the authorities to pool our forces and put Europe in attack mode. I am convinced we can do it. The Draghi report, as well as the recent statements of the Commission, are actually very, very encouraging. But now we can't wait any longer to act. And for that, I can guarantee you that the automotive industry keeps willing to engage openly and constructively. So this is also the reason why I'm here today. Thank you for your attention. I think we'll see each other later for the Q&A.